Hello, everyone. Welcome to June 4th, 2023. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for bearing with us during some technical difficulties. So, thank you for your patience on that one. Just a few items before I bring on today's guests. This week is going to be busy. I have 2 special episodes. So today I have Sophie. I have Amy Anthony, who is an aromatherapist. She will be joining me on Tuesday evening. And then on Wednesday, I have the husband and wife pair, Cody Blue Schneider and Tanya Dahl, the founders of Acid for Squares. So join me for that one as well. And today I am joined by Sophie Jean. She is a photographer, a mother of 3, and today is her birthday. So everybody out there, if you want to show her some love and say happy birthday. Also, a side note, you might notice a family resemblance because we are related. Good morning, Sophie.
Good morning.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
So, a lot of things going on. So, first and foremost, you are a photographer.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I want to hear a little bit about that journey of what brought you to photography and what you like to focus on.
Well, this all started probably a lot longer than any of us really realized because I bought my first professional camera when my oldest son was about a year old. I had went to Sears and spent probably $300 on the photos that they took, and I was like, I must have them all. So I wanted something where I could capture his life. And I started to really see that I kind of had a knack for it. I did. I remember showing my dad my camera, and he looked at me and he goes, go figure. You've always had one of those in your hands. And that kind of stuck. All of a sudden, it was like, yeah, I was always the kid taking pictures. I always wanted pictures of everything. And people started noticing the work I was doing. My friends specifically started noticing the work I was doing. They were, would you be interested? And I started to kind of decide to go with it. And I remember talking to the other sister one night, trying to figure out a name. I wanted to call myself something, not just Sophie Photography or Photography by Sophie. And so it was actually a conversation with her that came up with Images by Sophie Jean. And I jumped out full force. I got my first friend who wanted a set of pictures, and I believe it was engagement pictures. And I jumped right into it. I had a blast. No idea what I was doing, but I loved every second of it. And the pictures came out really good. So I started to teach myself portrait photography as much as I possibly could. And I just woke up. Hold on. Little tear here. But portrait photography was always my thing. I love nature, but never could quite get the knack of it. And it's just something that some people just have that beautiful, like, they could take a nature photo.
There's an
but
I have a friend, Michael, and I. Michael says happy birthday and good morning, by the way.
Thank you, Michael.
And as many of you know, my boyfriend is also a photographer, and he takes really great photos as well. But there is a certain knack and a certain eye for the nature photography. And we have a mutual friend, Asia Lee. She's been on the show as well. She takes amazing nature photos. Amazing.
Oh, I've got a couple people that I know that just do amazing nature work, and I'm just like, I can't do it. I need people.
On the flip side, there's a lot of people who like, I can't take people. Every time I try and get a person, it's blurry or their eyes are closed. I'm notorious. Smile. Okay, but my eyes are closed. Now try to do both at the same time. So there's a
There is. And I'm good with people. I love being kind of the oddball, and then I will do anything to make that photo happen, to make you have a good experience. I started with the engagement photos. I moved on to doing just family portraits, a lot of little kids, because I had my own son as an example. He he got used to it so fast, and now 16.
Yeah.
Stop, mom. Um, but once I kind of really started grabbing it, I grabbed everything. I grabbed portraits, I grabbed weddings, I grabbed events, I grabbed newborn babies, pregnancy pictures, um, corporate events, things like that. Just grabbed it all. I was like, okay, I'll do it. I'll try. Why not?
Okay. So, well, that coming out of your shell and growing has helped a lot
Yes,
with self discovery
yes.
and moving to like self confidence and acceptance. So,
Hmm.
kind of explain that journey a little bit.
Um, I think that's kind of true for like a lot of other people. We're hard on ourselves. We're really hard on ourselves. And a lot of us are really not nice to ourselves. We're meaner to ourselves than we would ever be to any other human being on the planet.
True story.
And it is. There's not okay, there's one person on this planet that I would ever want to say any of the things I've ever said to myself. And he fathered my nephew, so but yeah, yours. But there I had been seeing a lot of these things coming up recently or within the last few years where everybody's like, you wouldn't talk to yourself, you wouldn't talk to your friend like that. You would not talk to your child like that. Why are you talking to yourself like that?
Hmm.
And you start off with the bullying and the all these other things and all these reasons why people are telling you why you're never going to be up to whatever standard. And you kind of soak that in for 30 years. It's stuck kind of. Um, but I made through therapy and through the EMDR work and parts work that I do, I found that if I just give myself grace, the parts of me needed grace, the parts of me that needed love, whether it was through traumatic events that happened in life, or if it's just things that happened when I was younger that were terrible things to have happen, and look back on it and not get the same feelings. And so doing that parts work and seeing all these signs of, I would never in a million years sit my sister down and say any of the things that I said to myself. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't. I wouldn't dare say that to another human being. So I made the dedication that I was going to be nicer to myself. I was going to find all these different parts of myself and love and appreciate them for what they done for me in my life. And accepting that my stories are my stories of my past. And they're fine. They
They're just
happen.
chapters.
Huh?
They're just chapters.
They're just chapters. And some of them were terrible. But
Hmm.
that's what it is. And when I really started to love and accept those little parts inside of me that were frantic over everything, I really got to see the acceptance of myself. My love for my kids grew. And it really drew into my photography so much because learning how to say no, going from I want to try everything to, okay, I think I know what I don't want anymore. And being able to go, no, I really don't want to do that. No, I don't think that I'm a good fit for that particular photography job or whatever it is. And be honest with myself and authentic with myself about it.
So, one of the key questions we have here is what brings you peace? So, in all of that journey, and I know how difficult, I personally understand how difficult it is to come to a place of self love and self acceptance. And it could take many years.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes many years to sometimes find peace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are many things that bring me peace, and I know there are many things that bring you peace. So what are the things that truly bring you peace?
My kids are honestly, and I shouldn't say it like that because sometimes it just sounds like I put it on my kids, but I'm not. Um, Knowing where my kids are, knowing where they're happy, even if it's loud and obnoxious, I can get three of them on the couch, wrestling, laughter everywhere, and I am at peace because my kids are happy. I find the peace in those chaotic moments where we know as children we weren't. If we started wrestling around in the living room, what would happen? We would not be in the living room anymore. Me and our brother, we would get in trouble because we'd be in the living room when we weren't supposed to. But for me, I'm like, let it happen. Um, Breathing, learning how to breathe is been such a huge, huge thing we don't think about,
No.
really. I can't tell you how many times I've been in therapy and my therapist, I'll have my eyes closed and she has to get into those deep breathing sounds. She is very exaggerating her inhales and her exhales to get me to breathe. So learning how to do that when I find myself holding my breath, the
Yep.
breath work is just so important. Music is another one. Absolutely love to get in my ears and just go, okay, hold on. I need something other than this, whatever this is. And I shove them in. Um, I, again, with the metalheads and people looking at you like, huh?
Yeah.
But it's great to throw in a good song with some good screaming that just washes away all of it. And it's like 2 minutes, put in a whatever song you need, and having them screaming in my ear for 5 minutes to bring me back to the present and be like, okay, I can handle life now. I
It's
can.
actually I'm learning and I'm discovering in the people that I'm attracting in my own little tribe that that's not unusual. I was in my first, my Reiki 1 training, and everyone, she went around the room and she's like, "What's your favorite band? What's your favorite band? What's your favorite band?" And you're getting contemporary top 40, and then there's me. And she goes, "So you really like to shake off the negativity because that really it's a certain vibration." I'm a very conscious listener. I always have been. If I can't
Uh-huh.
understand what they're screaming or what they're saying, or I don't like what they're saying, then I don't listen to that. I move on. And we grew up in a very eclectic musical household. I can go from,
Hmm.
as I say, I can go from I can go from Anthrax to Zappa and everything in between.
Hmm.
And, so it's not unusual to have a lot of metalheads say, "That's what brings me peace." It's because you can shake off the negativity.
Yep.
Um, there's with even with spirituality, there's the good side and the dark side, and it's not really a good side or a dark side, it's a spectrum.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you need to know where you fall on the spectrum.
Yes. To know, like, it's just, it does, there's so many different ranges, like you said. It's just, and I love that it does that. And it's so funny because, um, when it comes to that, I don't think anybody does understand the vibration of what kind of music really affects them vibrationally and how it connects them to nature, to earth. That vibrational pull when you get in there and the vibration just kind of pulls you together. It's just,
Mhm.
and I know people get it with their own music in their own time, but it was
Right.
still something that I recently learned too, where it, what you said with the vibration and how it just grounds you sometimes in a now moment. And um, that's a big one with the music. And then um, I actually have like an anxiety ring. As somebody, I was diagnosed with anxiety. I was diagnosed with anxiety in adulthood, but her looking back, she's like, "You've had this since early childhood," and makes a lot of sense. So another thing that brings me peace is one of my anxiety rings.
Explain.
I have hit my finger. This, I don't know how well this is going to show up on a camera, but this is an anxiety ring that spins and it keeps your hands busy. Like, right, it's the movement, it's being able to keep it on my finger. I can do this very calmly, quietly, and to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just be able to, I think it just kind of connects my sides together in a sense, because I always end up using two hands to do it. And it's often just one of those, okay, I can move this, I can fidget my fingers. That's always a big thing, is fidgeting. So my anxiety ring is something that it just feels like it's kind of just bringing me all back together to myself. And again, I can focus on my breathing while keeping my hands busy. I can focus on listening to what I'm listening to while keeping my hands busy.
Great.
So, yeah. Yeah.
So, knowing what brings you peace, how do you feel you bring peace to others?
Um, I'm one of those that cracks a joke sometimes. During, I know who to crack the jokes to. I'd be very careful of that, but I crack jokes during kind of serious times just to give whoever it is a breath, a different breath, not a sad breath, not a weeping breath, but a breath of something light. Um, I also recently learned that sometimes when we find humor in those situations, it's a trauma response. So I'm okay with that, because a lot of times you need that breath. Um, and I like to bring that sort of thing. And I also like to be a sounding board, and that bringing peace to somebody else, knowing they can kind of sit down with me and be like, I just need to dump this out. I don't need anything from you. You're safe. We dump this out. Right? We like to call it word vomiting. And not the most, but greatest of terms, but still word vomiting. It's just getting it out and moving that energy and letting that peace come of somebody else brings me peace as well. Can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone and okay, they just need to let it out to me, and I can hear the difference on the phone. I can feel the energy coming through differently. Just giving them that space, and that brings me peace, knowing that I've helped, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, so you do have three
Mm-hmm.
active boys. Well, at least two very active boys. Um, and so, how do you bring them peace?
Each one needs their own thing. And I didn't have to, that one I learned very quickly and very easily. I had to adapt to each child in their own way. My oldest one, he's 16 years old. I cannot walk up and hug him when he is freaking out. It's not going to go over very well unless he's asking for one. So it's not going to work. What I do is I adapt and adjust to whatever his mood is. He's a teenager, so
No,
we're doing this a lot. You know, 6 months older than mine. No, 5 months older than mine. But with him, it just really depends. Sometimes he needs, um, again, laughter. My oldest son's love language is laughter. And so when he is internally freaking out, I have to bring him laughter. Bring him laughter. Again, it takes a different breath. It's realigning with himself, and he can kind of come back to it. My second one is on the spectrum. And for him, again, adapt. He has a couple of different things that we do to bring him back from other places. Water is a big one. My lights are acting up. I'm so sorry. Water is a big one for Jasper. There has been times where we call it his full autistic meltdown. He no longer speaks. He no longer communicates in any sort of way other than head shakes. We get him in water. That changes everything. Within 5 minutes, he's singing, he's talking, he's doing what he needs to do, he's communicating. He doesn't completely shut down. And then my youngest one, his love language is 100% touch. 100%. He's my Sour Patch Kid. So when he, first he's sour, then he's sweet. But there are times where what he needs is a bear hug, a big bear hug. And when I bear hug my children, I am full arms, legs, and I am holding him. And that one, if he fights you, it's within minutes he is done fighting you and he's over. He's like, okay, I got what I needed. I can move on now. So it's definitely an not adapt and overcome, but adapt and adjust. Like, oh, okay, this is the mood we're in today. Let me see where I can pulling at straws, figuring out which way works best for them at the time that they need it. And I think that's one of my things is I like to adapt. I really like to just adapt and go, oh, okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Okay. So adapting actually is one of the ways you help bring peace too.
Yeah, yeah, very
And
much so.
so you've done multiple photo shoots and you've learned a lot of different things. You've learned what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and all of that. What have you learned about bringing your clients peace, putting them at ease?
Again, the humor comes into play. I don't I have learned that laughter can really, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, to me, in my professions, in my personal life, laughter kind of seems to be a cure all. Really, I can ease the tension in the room. You get a group of people, and a lot of times, and I'm not calling anybody out, but a lot of times I do run into the people who don't want to be there, the people who are only here because they have to be here, and cracking a few jokes, doing very strange things. I'm not afraid to be weird in public. I'm not. You can get, I will do anything to make you laugh. I will do anything to make you smile naturally. So I bring in the humor. I bring in little jokes here and there. I bring in sometimes just my tone of voice, going from you show up and tell your clients, listen, if you do what I say, it'll go faster. They're going to be like, oh, no thanks. I'm like, hey, listen, we want to get this. Just follow my instructions and we're good to go. The whole tone of voice, the whole everything. I, again, grasp at straws until I find what brings them comfort and gives them such an enjoyable experience that they look back at the pictures and they're not going, that smile is completely fake. They're going, oh no, that's when, she had to make the little boys fart. And so she had to make noises that make little boys laugh. So they look back at it as a good memory and a happy one instead of, okay, we need these family portraits. Grandma's asking for them. Let's go. Happen.
Oh, I'm sure it's happening.
Yeah, especially you get those boys in between certain ages. The little guys in between like 8 and 12. They get this smile, and it's like, okay, we really need to make sure you laugh because your laughter smile is perfection and it's pure beauty. So, um, that's what I bring there. And when I come into other more private areas and more private, even if it's not out in public, I do the same thing. Um, when you're working with specifically boudoir photography, you walk in there. First of all, you have a woman's self-esteem in your hands, and that's a really big boulder to have in your hands. And so, again, laughter, goofiness, and comfort is how I bring my clients peace during sessions, especially those ones.
And so all you really go to humor.
Yes, yeah, humor is my fallback. Not really my fallback. It's kind of I love it. I'm not afraid to tell everybody I'm weird, and I'm okay if you laugh at me. it's cool because it's bringing you joy.
So, if I were to call you up in the middle of the day, not that this hasn't happened, but if I were to call you up and say, I'm not having a good day, or I'm on a ledge
Mhm.
and, you're jumping without wings, but you really shouldn't be jumping.
Right.
Uh, what do you go into your toolbox with? Now, we know humor is something, but what else is in your toolbox that can bring people peace really quickly, diffuse the situation?
Being a very understanding person. Listen, you're having a moment. You need to let it all out. I don't care what you have to say in this very moment. Let it all out. I know it's not directed at me. A lot of people will stop and be like, oh, I don't want you to think I'm mad at you. No, I know. You're telling me right now. I'm on a ledge. I don't, you tell me everything. You let it all out. Openness, being willing to listen are my two big things on when people are on a ledge is um, be there, be open to allowing them to say whatever they need to say. Because sometimes what they need to say is just clogging their vibrational system up, clogging their energy up. Like, oh, I have to hold on to this. I have to hold on to this. I have to hold on to this. It sounds so terrible. Giving that understanding space of sometimes what we're saying is not 100% what we want in a moment like this. It's fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
And right now, your brain is flighting. It's like, oh God, I need to. Um, and being willing to let them keep going. It's how many times where it's okay, no, 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 keep going. You got some more in there. You can keep going. Get it all out because if you don't, it's gonna stop you, and you're still gonna hold on to it. So I like being that sounding board in that open, safe place.
Okay, so you're a safe place. Now, I'm asking you for a tip, trick, or some other advice on bringing myself peace. So, what's in that toolbox?
Um, Pick from something that makes you happy. So, to bring me peace, if I need what brings me happiness as well, is my kids wrestling on the couch, rolling with laughter as my couch is falling apart. My house is becoming a disaster. The peace in that moment is the laughter, the joy coming from my kids. So, find one of those things. Music. Give me my favorite band and what's your favorite band? What music can align your immediate chakras to bring you back into your place. Um, Writing things out is another thing I love to tell people because sometimes our vocal cords don't work the way they should, but the handwriting can really, really get it out, as we both know. And let's see, I had another one, and then my train of thought ran away. Like it went fast. The train of thought it just really goes. Um, and I think teaching people to breathe. Just okay, let's get some breaths in. You can't breathe right now, right? Let's just breathe. Let's just focus on the breaths. You have a lot going on here. Let's breathe first. I think that's a big thing I teach my kids too. My youngest one, he gets very riled up like that, where he is like squealing whatever the problem is. And it's like, can you breathe first so we can make words we understand? 7, he makes words that don't make sense. So I kind of also bring that around too, where it's like, hey, let's get some deep breaths in us and then let's talk about it. Can't talk over hyperventilation. That doesn't work very well.
No, it's like crying and driving. I've tried, it
No,
doesn't work. Um,
it's no.
so I don't recommend that. So, What other things that would you like to tell people about peace and how to find a quiet place, so to speak, or a peaceful place?
Um, I'm doing what they call parts work in EMDR therapy with my therapist. And if you don't know what parts work is, watch the movie Inside Out, the
Mhm.
Disney movie Inside Out. Let's be clear on that. I don't know if there's a horror movie called Inside Out, so that's not what I'm talking about. Um, but the we have all these different parts of us, and each individual part has a job to do, and um, their entire purpose is to get you through those things and and keep you safe while doing it. And so one of the things that I've really learned to understand is like things like I have anxiety. My anxiety has a name and has a visual in my mind. So like the movie Inside Out, you see the character Joy. I have anxiety, and I try to teach people about the parts work where I stop and I'm like, okay, all right, Frank, let's sit down, let's talk. What's going on? Why are you freaking out right now? You're freaking out right now because you're on sensory overload. Okay, cool. When you acknowledge, it's a lot like a toddler. You acknowledge the toddler when they're speaking to you, and they feel like they've been heard. They feel like you're listening to them. They feel like, and then they can move on with life. It's toddler, I want a cookie. I want a cookie. Oh, you want a cookie? Yes, I want a cookie. You want a cookie? Yes, I want a cookie. Okay, you want a cookie. Well, you can have your cookie as soon as you're done eating your dinner. And then it's like they have the moment of they can be logical. And that's kind of parts work in my way. Is sometimes my parts are toddlers, and they need to know that I see them and that I hear them. Oh, okay, we're having an anxiety moment. All right, I see you. What are you having anxiety about? Oh, okay, that semi truck is getting a little too close. Yeah, that's giving me a little anxiety because you don't want to be that close to a semi truck. Got it. Okay, we can move forward. So I like to introduce that sort of like, well, don't ignore that part of you that's really upset right now. You don't want to be upset right this very second. All right, I understand that. But give yourself that point where you can sit down and be like, I really can't stop going through this and going through this and going through this and going through this. And it's freaking me out and it's upsetting me. What do you want? Give me, do you need chocolate? Do you need a pat on the back? Like, what do you want? But giving it that space. I have brought that to a few people, and a couple of times I have a few people that are starting to do it on their own a little bit. And it's kind of been a fun thing to watch from a distance. It's like really great friend of mine, and she's like, the anxiety part of me, she's having a moment right now. And I was like, okay, do you need to go hang out with her for a second? Do you need to go figure out what's going on? Birthday Starbucks. um, but do you need to figure out what's going on? Do you need, like, she goes, and I always, now's not the time. Can't do it right now. Now is not the time. Okay, well, let that part of you know. Right now, while I'm driving a car and need to focus on the road ahead of me, it is not time for me to cry. Get back in there. As soon as we get home and park that car, come free.
Right.
And sometimes it's literally the toddler. Give the toddler the space, and the toddler will sometimes calm down. Not Skylar, but most other toddlers will calm down. um, that's one thing I bring, and again, finding the joy is what another, like, okay, there's literally no talking you down off of a ledge. There's literally none of that. If I know you well enough to know, I'm going to put on first music will be my first one, because I think every single person I know uses music some way, shape, or form to regulate emotions, turn up their vibration, turn down their vibration, whether they need to cry and they can't. So they got to put on that one really sad song because
Mhm.
they need that freedom to do it. So especially if I know them, it's like, okay, let's turn it around. I remember when my oldest was younger, I could turn anything around with a little Metallica Fuel. That was his. I could turn anything around. I could turn that song on, and he was like, and he jam out. He doesn't jam out anymore, but the little kid jam out where they're like, yeah. So music's another one, and then I kind of gauge physical touch for people that are close by in physical proximity. I know I am a person where physical touch it's a great way to help in certain situations. I know a lot of people that's kind of their go-to when it comes to me. They're kind of come up, they're like, okay, you're freaking out, you need a hug. And I'm like, don't know this about me. Let me freak out. But I will do the same thing where it's like, okay, come here. You need a hug. You need a bear hug. You need scratch on the back. You need anything to bring you present, to bring you whatever. And those are like really my three fallbacks.
Going back to the music for a quick second, and this is a very true thing. I have a meme collection. It's a very extensive one. And one of them is I can't always say what I'm feeling, but there's always a song I can find.
Yes.
That has been always very true for me. I can't
Mm-hmm.
always articulate it, but I know what song. It's like when my roommate and I were in Scranton, she knew what day I had. If I had had a bad day, if she came home and she heard Stranglehold and I had a glass of wine, she'd go, "That great, huh?" Uh, so that was that, it's like I can't articulate it, but Ted Nugent can.
Yeah.
Or it's like I would put on, if I didn't want anyone around me, you could tell because there's a song for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's called
Mm-hmm.
Antisocial. Um,
Uh-huh.
but music is always peaceful and it always centers into a vibration. There are times where being just peaceful and putting on a frequency or meditation music is what
Mm-hmm.
really grounds. That helps me with walking, especially
Yeah.
in the morning. Because yes, while I'm one of the one of the few people who could probably wake up to anything, and I have, when I'm walking, I find that it's a better walk, and I feel like more calm and at peace after listening to meditation music while walking.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's sometimes at night that's something that gets put on. It's like the kids have been, I've got all these different noises throughout the entire day, and honestly, sometimes what I really want to do is play my phone game and not have anything else. Anything else. And so putting that on, it really will kind of just
calms everybody down.
yeah, it just calms, and then the house feels peaceful when the house feels like it's been chaos all day. And that's something. And I live in a house that very positive is frequented by spirits, and so sometimes I need to knock them away too. We get footsteps upstairs sometimes, and it's like everybody's down here, must be the ghost. But the energy in the house will change as well when there's been a reason to just throw that on and just kind of really bring myself down for the night before I go in and go to bed.
I've known, yeah, we do that at night too, and sometimes it'll stay on all night.
Yeah. I
And
had my youngest gets angry if the music stays on. So he gets angry. Why don't you turn this off? Just get some peace, kiddo. You need it.
so that's very funny.
Yeah,
That's
that
very
is. That reminds me of the meme where it's like I saged my house and my children are coughing, saying I can't breathe. Oh yeah, I bet you can't. Negative energy. The kids
Oh,
have been stuck in the house for a week, and you're like, negative energy that's in here. It
It's
is
all
super
good.
sweet.
So, um, I want to thank Sophie for coming on and talking peace and inadvertently music. And all the ways that peace and music can intertwine, and it just doesn't have to be meditation music.
No,
Also
I.
explaining parts work.
Mhm.
That's using the movie Inside Out is a very good way of doing it. I appreciate that, especially because like every time I watch Riley's first date, and
Mm.
I can I identify with the father, and I tell my son I tell my son, "Anytime you go to a girl's house, that is the father's brain. Why is there a boy in my house? There's a boy in my house. So, this
Uh-huh.
is why you have to be a decent human being."
Uh-huh. I think our dad went through
That's
that.
I just identify as like, that's what went through Bob's head. That's what went through my son's
Uh-huh.
head. Anytime a boy showed up at the house, "Who are you? Why are you here? You need to leave." Um, so
Why is there a boy? I have a son. I don't need this boy.
yeah, and so explaining parts work in that way, I think really helps people, and I want to thank you
Uh-huh.
for that.
That's
And
it. What attached to me to it actually is the way she between that and her analogy. Those were the two that I was like, I want to try it. Let's go.
and
So.
also, I want to thank you for also remembering and reminding us that humor can also bring peace, joy, and love.
Mhm.
And I want to wish you a very happy birthday again. And
Thank
I
you
want
very
to
much.
thank everyone for joining us this morning in learning about peace through Sophie and her photography and the various stories she has about humor. I'm
Thank
gonna
you very much for having me.
I'm gonna put Sophie in the green room for a minute and take care of a few things. So I want to thank you all for joining me again and remind you to join me on Tuesday evening for a special episode. I will have Amy Anthony on. She is an aromatherapist. She's going to talk about how scent and the various scents can bring in peace in what each one does. I also will be having Cody Blue and Tanya Dahl on Wednesday for a special episode. They are the founders of Acid for Squares. So come and join me on that day and learn what that is all about. If you like today's episode, please remember to subscribe, like, and get notified. And I want you all to have a great day. Thank you.